This is not the first time I've been here, and can I start straight away by congratulating the Trades Council and all of our members and activists at Hinckley for what is undoubtedly become one of the mark events of the trade union calendar, certainly in terms of Workers' Memorial Day. It's a tribute to everybody involved that it's grown to the extent that it has. I will be speaking in Bristol on Monday, and I have to say that this is probably now the largest event of its kind that's held anywhere in the region. So well done to everyone involved. We always, of course, have to remember why we mark these occasions. And I did ask beforehand if it was okay to mention this, and I hope it is, particularly with our sister union, the GMB. But it would be wrong to gather here today without mentioning Jason Waring and the sad loss of life. And to everybody affected by that loss of life, you have our solidarity and condolences on behalf of the United Southwest. I'm not a lover of statistics, never have been. In fact, as a trade unionist and effectively a glorified shop steward, I don't do the administration very well on the whole, and people will tell you that. But just as a reflection, according to RIDOR, and of course we know that the statistics that are gathered by RIDOR are not the most accurate and fair reflection of the reality of accidents and deaths in workplaces across our country. But in 2023-24, 138 workers were killed. And if there was no other reason for us to gather today, that's enough. In 2025, we're reflecting again on another year of three-figure deaths in workplaces. And that doesn't mean to say, of course, that all of those deaths are the responsibility of negligent individuals or employers. Of course, accidents genuinely happen. But undoubtedly, the reality is that the law is still an ass. The law is still inadequate. The law is still full of holes about reasonable practicability. And it's still lets workers down. And the reality is, most of you who work at Hinckley work for a decent client on the whole, but there are bad employers, too many bad employers, too many bosses who are prepared to take shortcuts that lead to people being injured and killed at work. And why here? Well, of course, when it comes to league tables, I'm afraid that construction are I'm going to use the analogy of Liverpool. Others may argue Manchester United. But I'm afraid construction holds that rather awful record of leading the table of deaths in workplaces year upon year. And in fact, as a representative of Unite, of course, both construction and the food, drink and agricultural sections of our economy always lead in the terms of the total numbers of deaths that occur in the economy every year. And that has to change. There are simply too many cowboys employing people and working in those sectors of our economy. And again, for no other reason, why do we gather here? We gather here for that reason every year. Because until every employer and every individual takes fully their responsibilities to ensure the health, safety and well-being of all workers in work, then we need to gather here every year until that's completely eradicated. And even when it's completely eradicated, when we reach some kind of utopian safe working environment, we'll still need to gather to remind people that we must never allow that to slip up again. And that's poignant. It's politically poignant because health and safety is one of those things, and any of you who are workplace representatives or officers know this. Whenever there's a pound to be pinched, you can guarantee that the health, safety and well-being of workers will suffer somewhere along the road there. I had the pleasure of meeting a representative of the Birmingham bin strikers yesterday. They gave some very powerful accounts, not only of why it is that they're engaged in an industrial dispute at the moment in Birmingham, You know, and I defy any worker to say that the taking of £8,000 a year from somebody's pay packet wouldn't have a marked difference on their ability to manage their lives and to keep their families. But that aside, in all three of the meetings that I attended with the representative, within 10 minutes of the meetings opening, health, safety and well-being became the preeminent conversation. The fact that they drive around in 14-ton trucks, and Birmingham City Council are quite determined to lower the skills involved in operating those trucks in Birmingham, and the terrible accounts we've heard of slips and falls and crushes involved in that activity for waste workers all over the country. And it's for those reasons that, again, we have to meet here every year and remind ourselves that nobody who leaves their homes on an evening or on a morning should fail to return home safely to their loved ones and their families at the end of a working day. I want to finish on this note because I could sit here moaning and groaning about negative things all day long, but I want to pay tribute to the trade union movement, because if it wasn't for the movement, we wouldn't make any advances in health and safety and well-being in workplaces. But in particular to those volunteers, the elected workplace representatives, the health and safety representatives, the hours of training that they commit themselves to and the diligence that they show, often in workplaces where employers are less than tolerant, less than understanding. All of us here understand, because generally speaking, you're all working for a reasonably good employer. But every day, you know, I take calls from, and officers take calls from, and our committees listen to workplace reps, health and safety reps, who even in 2025 are the victim of bullying and blacklisting and ridicule in their workplaces. But every day, these volunteers, our workplace reps and health and safety reps, stand up. And the only reason they do that is to make the workplace safer for them and for their colleagues. So thank you. Thank you to everybody here today, and I wish you well.